Hello, welcome to Let's Talk About Emotions. Today we're talking about change. Such a good topic. There's so many emotions in change. Today, well, let me introduce myself first. My name is Anshin Texter. I'm a licensed DEI trainer and consultant, and I teach a series of courses at Empathy Academy. I'm currently working on a new course called Befriending Fear, which is very exciting. Beside me, I have Bobby McIntyre. She's also a licensed DEI trainer and consultant, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And consultant based in North Carolina, South Carolina?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. We have Sarah Alexander, who is a licensed DEI trainer and consultant, also a licensed clinical social worker. We're so grateful to have her with us because she brings such deep insights with her. And then we have Sue Barclay, who is licensed DEI trainer and in the process of becoming a consultant based in the UK. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm really delighted to have you here. And today we're going to talk about the emotions behind change. Now, in my opinion, and my opinion isn't the only one here, there are two kinds of change, two like broad categories of change. Changes that you choose, such as, I don't know, getting a haircut.
Which looks awesome.
Changes that you don't choose, changes that are forced on you, such as, oh, I don't know, going through a life-threatening illness. So today, I was thinking we could maybe start with the topic of changes that you choose, and then we could see where it goes from there. So let's talk about the emotions behind changes that you choose. Go ahead and jump in.
Nobody else has an idea. I have a big idea. I was sitting mapping them out last night, just feeling into like those changes that are desired, that are chosen, what emotions and maybe even what sequence do they show up for me at least. And a lot of people I see as clients. And I identified depression as the first one. Maybe not depression in like its intense state, where you're having trouble getting out of bed, but at least depression in its soft state, where it's that reality check of it's time to change something up. It's time to, something's not working anymore. It's time to shift gears. And then for me, how I mapped it out is jealousy and envy show up next in order to like present the new desire. Like, here's the thing you're wanting. Here's the thing you're being called to or towards. Here's that. And then in chosen change, I see the rest of the emotions falling into place. Like anxiety pops up to say, okay, so if I'm going to make this shift, what really needs to happen? And it does that job. Sadness pops up in order to help you let go of the old and replace it with the new. And if it's chosen change, I think often that's experienced as rejuvenating. And then fear is helping you orient to the novelty and the change inherent in the new path and the new thing. And anger has to come up in order to protect the new thing. Like, this is our new path. I'm going to be on this. I'm going to keep going here, rather than protecting the old path. And shame can help you do that too. Shame can help you say, okay, we're not doing it the old way, or we're not showing up at the old place. We're doing it this new place. So let's go here. And contentment can let you know then when shame is doing its job, like, oh, this feels good. I like this feeling. Good, I made this shift. It's done. And happiness can help too, because you're looking forward to a new experience with hope and excitement. So that's how I felt into it.
Yeah, Bobby.
I agree. That was beautiful. So well done. I recently went through a big change in that I retired from 42 years working for the Department of Defense. And that was in January of this year.
As one of the first women in your field. Woohoo! Talk about change.
And I experienced depression, first of all, and panic. Even though I was choosing to retire, I wasn't sure how all the finances would work out and how what all the anxiety producing things needed to be done. I didn't know. It turned out I didn't need to know because there wasn't much I had to do. Once I retired, I could do whatever I wanted.
I hear tell of such things.
But at first, I didn't know that. At first, I did have a lot of panic that I was forgetting something or that another shoe was going to drop. Um, and depression over losing my reason for getting out of bed in the morning, and also my friends and all of the satisfaction I would get from a job well done, that sort of thing. So I did experience depression around that, and anxiety as well as the panic. And as time went on, it took a while, actually, even though this was a chosen thing. It took me a pretty good bit of time to get through all of those emotions before I started to get into some of things like contentment and happiness and reorienting my life to the new direction. Um, and what was I going to do with my time, and filling it up, finding things to fill up that were meaningful. And of course, one of the ways is I've gotten much more involved in DEI and doing all my different courses, which I would like to take the Befriending Sadness course with you, Anton. I keep meaning to email you and tell you that. So I will email you so you don't have to remember. But that was my experience with a chosen change. And now I'm very happy that I can sleep in till I feel like getting up, and nobody makes me get up early unless it's my husband wanting me to do something. And enjoying doing the things I want to do with my life instead of the things that I have been doing that weren't necessarily fun.
Sounds like you're putting more energy into your anger and your envy, prioritizing what's important to you, and also kind of letting your envy speak to you and say, well, what do I want to do? What do
Exactly.
I want?
Exactly. Exactly.
Nice. Thank you, Bobby.
Something occurred to me when both of you were mentioning depression. I was thinking about how depression, it is part of the sadness family of emotions. And I think one of the things it does, it allows a space to open up, right? So instead of like go forward all the time, you're kind of stepping back, and especially in soft depression, it's kind of maybe a little bit of self-doubt, some questioning, maybe just taking a breath, but it creates a little bit of space for other possibilities to open up.
Oh,
And
I like that. Yeah.
oftentimes I think you just need to rest. Take a breath so that there is space for something else to come through. And you might not know what that looks like, right? You might not have any clue of what it could be. It might be something like totally off the wall, or something that you haven't allowed yourself to dream of, even though there's a little seed back there somewhere. So yeah, I think that both of you, when you're describing that, it just occurred to me that depression is something that it's literally kind of creating a depression, right? To let something else come in. So you can look around with more clarity, look around and say, oh, well, this isn't working for me. What else could? What else is there?
Yeah, I think like obviously there's many things that can intervene with this process and turn it from smooth sailing into not just obstacles, but very murky and treacherous territory, right? And one of the things that shows up quick to put a monkey wrench in that process is with the jealousy part. Like depression is there just giving you the reality check and the pause and see this new thing that's emerging, the shift. But then when you move to jealousy and envy, if you have problems with those emotions, for example, if you don't if your shame comes in and says it's bad to have wants and needs, or it's bad to want something that inconveniences or discomforts somebody else, then it's kind of like the process gets a stymie right there. And the depression then is going to have to get more and more and more intense for you to push even past that first step of deciding what you want and deciding, yeah, that's what I want, I'm going to go for it.
That's such a good point. Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about, as you were talking, I was seeing this like vision unfold within me. I was like, oh yeah, those days when I'm like hiding in bed with my covers over my head. I'm like, I don't want to do this thing, but I have to do this thing, but I don't want to do this thing, but I have to do this thing. And then finally the discomfort gets so bad that I'm like, fine, I'm gonna do it.
Right.
So there's my anger, I'm gonna do it. And I don't know, like this feeling of being fed up, maybe a little bit of hatred, maybe a little bit of a suicidal urge to come through and say, getting rid of that, right? And I mean, ultimately it comes down to an outdated contract, right? It's
right.
It's kind of a core belief that's just, it's blocking you, right?
Right.
You from be able to go forward, you know? So
right.
come up against those blocks of like, oh, I want to make this change, but now I'm so scared, or I can't move anymore, or I've got this giant weight on me. Then looking at those core contracts really helps you define like, oh, is this holding me back? Is this belief that women have to be nice to be successful holding me back? Or the opposite, you know, you can't be nice to be successful, one of those two.
Right.
There are so many. Yeah, thank you. That was really kind of like a little epiphany for me. Sue, you look like you have something to say.
No, I'm slightly confused about the difference in a way, because sometimes change is sort of forced but also wanted, or also chosen but also forced, and backwards and forwards. So I thought I would just draw what my immediate response would be. And when I thought about change forced on me, if I go back to, and this is probably my kind of core stuff, it's just like immediate grief and sort of hopelessness and depression and the suicidal urge probably. But underneath that, because I couldn't work with my anger and my panic and my terror and my rage and my envy and my jealousy, they're all the page underneath that. so that I think what would come forward for me often would be go into depression and grief and hopelessness, and maybe even like a suicidal urge, because I couldn't allow myself to feel the anger and the rage and the terror of the change and envy and the jealousy of actually, well, that's something I want, but and then the shame, I'm not allowed to have that, or to think, or to want that. So that was interesting. And then when I drew the one about change that I'm choosing, it was just lighter. There was still sadness there, helping me stay grounded really through the change. There was fear, but there was also some contentment and happiness. It just was a lighter thing. And then just sadness of like letting go of something that no longer worked. So, but I think if they were cards, I would just have them all kind of on top of each other and round about, because I'm not, sometimes it all seems to kind of be like it's fitting together in some way. Yeah.
Sue, would you be willing to hold up the art that you made today? I'd really love to see it.
I did it very quickly on my way back from a walk, but when I thought about it, I immediately just drew grief. Like I just draw scribbles, but underneath it was the anger and the panic and the rage and the the fear and the envy and the jealousy. And when I choose, this has got other things written on it, but it was lighter when I choose change. But there was still sadness. So sadness was just sort of sad.
I love how you have the layers.
Yeah,
That makes so much sense.
I thought it was interesting, yeah, because it's like, you know, if you are not allowed to be angry as a child and a change is forced upon you, it's easier, this is more acceptable than this. You know?
Right.
But
Yeah.
so
What we were just talking about when, you know, the change that you choose, right? And then the getting to the roadblock of like, oh wait, this is conflicting with my core beliefs about how a woman should act. Like, oh, I can't go that way now. I don't want to change. It's not safe. I'm gonna stay the same, but I have to change. This is not working for anymore. So what do I do? Right. So I think you have a really good point. Yeah, it's not black or white, right? I mean, it's all in shades of gray, and it's completely a fluid process. You know, you might wake up one morning and decide, like I did, I'm sick and tired of sleeping on my braid. It's going today. Right. And then later that night when it's gone, you might think, I guess I'll grow my hair out again. Right.
well, you've been getting your hair cut. Yeah, sorry, I didn't miss that. I love your hair. Looks great. Yeah.
I mean, that's like a very simplistic example.
Yeah.
But I mean, it can apply well. You could think about like in terms of like, I'm gonna start my own business. And then you get to your first roadblock, like, oh, this is too hard. I can't do it. And then the next day you're like, I'm doing it again. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get past this. So I can see
yeah. I mean, part of me, I know, I was just going to say that in a way, all of life is change. You know, on another level, it's just that acceptance of the transience of life. And I don't feel like in general we deal with that very well. You know, it's not maybe welcome. It's not aging isn't welcome. You know, the changes aren't, because we don't know how to work with our fear and our anxiety and all our emotions, which help us deal with change. Then change is often, yeah, kind of paralysis. You know, it's a really scary thing when we don't know how to work with our fear. We're scared of our fear. We're scared of our anger. We're scared of our envy and our jealousy. And so it's hard. Change is maybe harder than it has to be in that way.
Yeah. I know someone, and his definition of success is the ability to adapt to change. I thought that was really fascinating.
That's a great definition.
Yeah.
That does speak to the transience of life, as you were saying, Sue. Yeah.
And then there's another kind of change, which is like emerging from within, like not something that's imposed on you by the outside or consciously chosen, but the kind that is something inside of you speaking up, starting to wake up, like saying that this relationship needs a change, or this job needs a change, or like moving from an addictive process into a recovery process. That kind of change, I think, comes with a lot of confusion on the front end. And I think that confusion is there to do an important job. Carla put it once, we were in one of our Facebook posts or something, she was introducing the concept of confusion as necessary rather than in conflict with anxiety. Confusion is there to, like the babbling brook, to bring up information from the depths, because anxiety as an emotion will just kind of like say, okay, this is my task. I need to get from here to there in order to achieve this goal. I'm going. But when this change is bubbling up from the murky depths of a person, like something needs to shift, and confusion needs to be there to disrupt anxiety's process, to say, oh, that's path is not the path I need to be on anymore. I need to be on something else, but I don't know what that is. Confusion helps you be there, and fear helps you orient to what's emerging. And so like those three emotions together can help course correct anxiety. And I see anxiety as a very easy emotion to deal with if the other emotions are given room and space to do their jobs. If they're not given space, like if you approach confusion saying, it's bad to be confused, I need to be decisive all the time, I'm just going to shove that away, then you won't have that corrective piece for anxiety. And that's when anxiety can become problematic, because it's going down the wrong path and it's not getting the course correction from confusion that the situation requires.
I love that image of the bubbling brook,
Mhm.
because it's
Yeah.
you never really know what's going to come up, or kind of what confusion is another one. It's like making space, right? It's,
Mhm.
a bubbling brook is aerating the soil, aerating the water. So
Right,
who knows what's going to come out of that?
right.
Yeah, I love that too. It's that idea that to live in the unknown, we can't, if we stay in the known, it's the same. We'll do things the same way, but there's no freedom in that. The confusion. I was teaching confusion the other day in a workshop, and everybody, with the relief I could feel in the group when we were, you mean confusion's not bad?
Right.
Like everybody's face. This is like you could feel the light, you could feel the lightness in the group. It was really nice. And certainly I valence confusion very, very strongly. I thought that I should always know things and be on it and everything, but it's just lovely to talk about confusion in that way, as necessary, and it's like a dance, between maybe doing things and the confusion, and this needs to be there. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd encourage you to take a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about change that you're not choosing, change that you're being forced into, and the emotions behind that. So you already brought up some of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a life-threatening illness not too long ago, and very quickly I was overwhelmed with, well, grief, absolute grief in the depths of my soul, and panic. There was a lot of panic, and it was so overwhelming that a lot of times I just disassociated, because it was too much for me to deal with emotionally. And even though I have fantastic emotional support system and friends and a community, it still was too much. So sometimes when the change is forced on you, you do have to take a time out. And my timeout was disassociation, which is not what I recommend. But when I did come back, I worked with my grief and with my depression, which came up, of course, and my panic slowly faded when we got into the actual treatment, because then I had anxiety to help. And anxiety was like, okay, first we have to do this and let's go do that. And don't worry about the next thing because it's on the schedule, and, and that sort of thing. And so anxiety really helped me through my forced upon me change, because once I had a treatment plan and it was started, it calmed down immediately. And anytime I started to panic, I would go back to, what are we doing for it? And anxiety would let me know, and all that sort of stuff. And I hung on to those emotions back and forth until finally I got completely finished. And even after my treatment, I still had panic about reoccurrence and all of that sort of thing. But over time, that settled down and contentment came in, and my ability to look at things in a holistic point of view. I started losing weight. I went on a diet. I've lost 40 pounds so far, because losing weight can help you reduce your risk of reoccurrence. And I started working out 5 days a week and started getting in better shape and that sort of thing. And all of that was anxiety driven and also anger driven, because I wanted to set some boundaries. I wanted to create um, some action that I could do that would set boundaries around the worst possible outcome. And so that's been my experience with change that was forced upon you and sudden and unexpected.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think change that's forced upon you often comes with the more intense level of these emotions and comes with panic frequently. And panic, people, you, especially in my profession, but I think in general, see panic as evidence of something dangerous. And the way Carla talks about it, panic is trying to, unless there's a, a clear and present danger facing you, which I think cancer arguably is, it's fight, flight, freeze won't help unless there's like a saber-toothed tiger about to chomp on you.
Right.
So the way Carla talks about panic is it's trying to get you to your healing action. And I think Bobby's example there showed that oftentimes the healing action that's needed is the work of other emotions. So when Bobby pulled in her anxiety and to help her map out what are the steps here that need to happen, that helped her nervous system soothe. And also it sounds like, Bobby, when you were doing like approaching your grief work around it, that was also a healing action. And I would give panic credit for pointing you in that direction of needing those healing actions.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. And I did the grief work. I had shrines and I did a lot of crying and
Mhm.
a lot of grief work.
And a metaphor I use, again, with depression and jealousy and envy being at the top of that, if I was going to map it out the top of the emotion list to like get the other ones, get the material that's necessary for the other ones to fall into line. There's a metaphor I use about how depression and jealousy and envy can be utilized simultaneously to bridge seeming opposite things. So there's often a desire between what is, the reality check of what is, and what a person wants. Like sometimes, like in a life-threatening diagnosis, it's the reality check is the diagnosis, right? And the desire is, I don't want this diagnosis. And so I want to be healthy. And so the analogy I use is a potter's wheel. Like if you see the thing that you want as the clay on the potter's wheel, and then you see the hands that you use to shape a vase as depression, like the thing that you want, health. I want to be healthy and safe. That's the clay. And then the reality of the depression says, yes, and to get that, we need to do that. We need to see the doctors. We need to take care of our body in certain ways. Like it shapes that clay into the vase. Like it shapes it from more than just a raw want into, this is the path you're on. This is how it's shaping you. Are you taking in what is needed on this path, and you're creating something very different than the initial lump of clay. And that's how depression and jealousy work together very beautifully, I think.
Oh, that's a nice analogy. I used to do pottery, so it really speaks to me.
Nice. Yeah. And then the water involved, I say, is all the other emotions helping out the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Something I'd like to address, Bobby, you said that you went through this diagnosis and then you dissociated for a while, and I want to say that there's nothing wrong with dissociation. It's a really important healing response that the body can take as a way to protect you when you don't know what else to do, right? Or when you don't have it, when you feel like you don't have any other options. And so if you're able to notice yourself dissociating, it's really a time to be gentle with yourself. And if and when you're ready to come back, it's it's just a time to be gentle with yourself. Like your body and your emotions are doing the best that they can, right, with what they have. And so when you are able to feel like you're ready to come back or ready to move forward, then you've probably learned some more emotional skills and gained something that helps you feel more capable of going forward. Whether you have the support of a therapist, or you feel like you have some close friends who you feel comfortable being vulnerable with and sharing, whatever it is. Oftentimes it takes that change, or maybe you've just done some self-education or gotten yourself to the point where like, oh yeah, I get this now. I am not as scared now, or I can handle whatever these emotions are going to tell me because I trust my emotions. So, I mean, thank you so much for sharing your process. And I just want to point out it was completely natural.
Thank you.
Yeah, you didn't do it wrong, Bobby.
Thank you.
I so appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for coming and sharing.